Thank you. Thank you, Wasim. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Hicham here. I'd like to welcome you once more to the, I don't know, it's third or the fourth webinar we're going to cover today. A very important topic, which is time management in the classrooms. There is someone who's not muted. I don't know, but there's kind of an echo coming over there. I dismiss someone like that. Please mute yourself if that might. Just guys, can you confirm that you can see my screen?
Yes, Hicham.
Okay, thank you. Well, as I said, today's webinar is going to cover time management in them. You're going to see some challenges. I guess what's more is why do we have to manage our time as teachers into revise, say, executing our lessons, and at the same time we're going together to learn some tips to make sure that we are able to manage our time, make sure we are able to fulfill our tasks in a very timely manner. So the agenda is normally going to cover kind of very basic topics, particularly the most important challenges we as teachers sometimes get to face in order to manage our times. Sometimes we get to be very inconsistent teachers in terms of fulfilling against the time which is being provided to us. I would like certainly to learn from you guys what experiences, what are your challenges, what are the obstacles you are facing to manage your time while doing your job normally, and maybe if you've got any techniques, any things you could share with us to see how the other vision is being done, the other teachers around, let's say, Algeria, around the world, let's say, putting into their experience. We need sometimes as well, let's say, to understand where do we use our time. Like most of the times we think that we don't have time, but we might be doing kind of things which we make us lose. And as a last point, we are going to see some very important tips, some very standard and basic tips that help us as teachers to save time. They could help us to do our job effectively. I don't know if anyone has got, let's say, a question, or let's say, what are your expectations of, let's say, the outlook of this webinar before we tackle the first subject? Anyone? Okay, seems that no one has got a question. So these are, let's say, of the challenges myself, a teacher, I've been facing, particularly when I was a primary school teacher, a middle school, even a kindergarten teacher. Mainly, I used really to have, let's say, very big difficulties in getting the feeling of being forgotten, of being unable to control my to do the tasks of my lesson the way I really planned for it. So as you see, when it comes to lesson, I used to feel most of the people, this is a standard issue on a challenge, they feel kind of they don't have or matched you, but they don't have the task and the timing against each other. It's going really to give it equal zero. Some others, they feel like they are in the catch up and they are missing the deadlines. For example, when it comes to projects, when it comes to, let's say, some activities or some concerns for children. And same as being overwhelmed most of the times when it comes to the expectations of the people, expectations of the people who are setting the policy. your job, particularly inspectors, particularly your school director, the committee of pedagogy, and you get to feel yourself very, very stressed, and you don't have what to do most of the times. So you got to take a risk. You got to take some new steps or new procedure to kind of make up the things going faster, to make up the things getting to the normal and the ordinary. You would find yourself, let's say, this is one of the really hard challenges they really used to have, particularly when I say middle school and kindergarten. I used to have very difficulty transitioning from one activity to another, and this usually was a very big challenge in my class. So from the transiting from one class or transiting from another activity brings things really like very, very difficult and makes me lose a lot of time. So what about you guys, please? Anyone has got, let's say, to share with us an experience? How did you manage it, or how are you still managing it?
Hello? Hello?
Hi, what's your name?
My name is Asli Rahil. So for the challenges, the first time when I started teaching, I never managed. It was so hard for me, but later on I had to print the lessons. I had to change some activities to escape some unnecessary stuffs in order to manage my time.
Thank you, Rahil. Anyone else, please give us, let's say, one of the obstacles or one of the things applying into managing their times in the classrooms, please. Anyone there, please?
Hello? Hello?
Hey there, we didn't hear you. What's your name? Go ahead.
Yeah, hello. So my name is Saliha Bouberka from Tizi Ouzou. Thank you for the webinar. So what I wanted to say is that time management is not really, is not that easy. When I started teaching, mainly in middle school, it was very difficult to me to manage time because of many factors, mainly the students themselves, because we have to manage the time and also manage the behavior of the students sometimes. So delivering lessons, for example, in noisy classes, is not, it's not that easy to manage the time itself. So what I hope is that after this webinar, I would learn something or manage to manage the time itself.
Thank you, Saleh, and absolutely, just as you said, it's really not something easy to do. Time management is actually one of the biggest concepts, one of the biggest we have adopted over worldwide into finding new strategies, how to, let's say, overcome, because there is kind of very bad impression. There is kind of an extreme experience for lots of people losing no able to perform their normal job due to, as I said, many reasons and many factors. Absolutely, I am not going to mention in this webinar or physical reasons. For example, let's say large size, or let's say noisy classes, noisy, it's absolutely bad. No, we are going to focus on the concept or on the notion of how a teacher could, let's say, could manage to manipulate his time and control his tasks on a very, let's say, effective and a timely manner. For your if anyone step over the first.
Hello? It's Besad Nasima speaking. For me, at the beginning of my career, I used to spend too much time on the presentation phase, and then I discovered that I lost a lot of time in this phase. And for me now, I time-bound the tasks. I insist on time-bound the tasks, and I don't use too many items in one task, and I skip any unnecessary detail. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, you've mentioned some of, let's say, some of the challenges, some of your bits of the experience you used to have before. We, as teachers, we've got to understand what techniques, what methodology we should adapt in order to manage our time. We should firstly think of why it is important. I mean, why do we have to think that time is important for us to execute our job normally anyway? It's really like all related to the skills. I'm going to finish out to do a list. It means the job, whether presentation, whether let's say effectiveness of project, whether doing I don't know, some activities in your class, whether presenting a normal session. Teachers can use this in their classroom in order to optimize the learning opportunities for the students, and at the same time make sure that the students are going to benefit from that time, from that lesson that is going to be provided to them in a timely and in an effective manner. So it's all about the optimization of the learning opportunities for students. You could ask yourself why it is important to have a good time management skill. The first step, it really helps you prioritize your work. And at the same time, if you get your daily tasks, let's say if you have, for example, a to-do list and you get them down, you need firstly to think or to figure out what should be done first. So those that are important, for example, should be the first ones, and those which are not important, they can be the last ones, or can be in a second or a third place. So for example, you could ask yourself, should the students learn the lesson first or do the activity first? So it's all about the way you get to optimize, you get your way to arrange and to configure your class based on a very special objective, which is optimizing the learning opportunities for students. Since this is our job, this is our mission, this is our vision as teachers, to make sure that the people who are teaching the training are getting the best of our knowledge, the best of out what we are giving to them. Any questions, guys?
Hello there. Do you hear me?
Hello there. Hi.
This is Ismahan, a middle school teacher. So I just want to add something to what you have just said. For me, time management for teachers is far more complicated than for those who work in the office or somewhere. Well, in my perspective, or me as a teacher, I always say to myself, I teach people, not robots. So lessons are not predicted 100%. According to my experience, in the beginning of each lesson, you have first to feel your students, to connect with them before you start bombarding them with what you are about to teach. Why? Because students may not in the mood to follow you. So you have to work with them and bring them to your lesson smoothly. So here you are likely to use more time to reach that purpose. Maybe you need 10 minutes, 15 minutes or more. It depends. Sometimes during the lesson, all students want to participate. So you cannot block them or just stop them. So the time management here has to go for the students, I guess, and not the teacher, or at least in a balanced way. And not all what you plan in the lesson may go through. This is just my point of view. Thank you.
And I'm very thankful for you to have mentioned it when you say just aside and let the students, since the time management go for students. I've really prepared kind of one of the parts of the presentation about this point and how teachers decide when it comes to, let's say, taking the runovers, leave the students or give the time to the students. I mean, as long as the students are taking the advantage, are taking the benefits from that time, this is absolutely okay. But it still is it stays in need of some techniques and strategies to manage that. Yeah, it stays, as I said, one of the things really we need to pay attention, particularly when you get to bring, let's say, your students to attention to the lesson smoothly before starting, let's say, shoving over the knowledge, shoving over the information to their brains. Okay, so anyone has got a question, or we pass to the next slide? Guys, please, if you don't mind, just stop taking this screenshots because it really distracts me when presenting, particularly sending messages as well. It distracts the people who are seeing nation. When it comes to the recording or the screenshots, the slides, we are going to say and share it certainly at Benjamin over Facebook. So you got to see the whole recording. And absolutely, we need to take the screenshots, please. Thank you. So we as teachers, sometimes we need to understand why do we fail to manage our times? The question when you feel yourself kind of overwhelmed, you're not able to execute your day-to-day activities, and you feel most of the times not up to date as with your calendar, not up to date as with your to-do list. Some of the main issues trying to keep a to-do list. I don't know if you guys, teachers, are using the let's say some applications, some let's say some technological systems in order to set your to-do list, set yourself up to the activities you are going to do during your job or no. But you don't have to use technology. You don't have to use an application. You can use a paper and pen. You can use a book. Can use your phone. It really depends on you. Another thing is really also nagging and feeling you've forgotten to do one task you've missed, one task you've done, let's say, some activities twice or thrice, so that you missed the main objective of the lesson. And the trick here is that using effectively, let's say, some tool or some to-do list means in order to prioritize the tasks on your list and make sure that you're going to get over the tasks to make sure you don't miss any one of them. To do list application or techniques might be there. You don't want to share with us?
Hello there. Could you please repeat the question? Thank you.
So I said, if any one of you is using kind of an application or a system as a to-do list, as a tracking for your activities, pen and paper, an application, a mobile phone, some, let's say, online systems, some internal, like if you go in
Hello?
your classrooms or in your, hi there, go ahead.
Yeah, well, for me, I use Google Keep.
Okay, yeah, that's nice. Anyone else? Okay, so I got to show you one of the applications I'm really very fancy to use most of the times. It is called Monday.com, and this is one of the applications. I'm sorry, guys, I got a phone call. This is one of the applications I use really, let's say, very, very often in order to track my services, in order to track my activities over the day and the day. The application is called Monday.com. And you can use it as a teacher to set up your activities, to set up your, or to track your work, what assigned to you, what activities you got to do. And it's really, really helpful. And you can even set kind of a notification system into it. That's going to remind you by email, that's going to remind you by text messages to your phone, whether you missed, let's say, an overdue date, whether you got a status of one of your to-do list things or tasks, which is going to an overdue one, depending on the importance. For example, here, I have a meeting, let's say an internal review for the first quarter with my academies. The academies I'm managing. So here the date is the 17th of April. And I put here the state means that I can change the status of this task to me, whether I'm working on it or stuck because of some, let's say, technical issues or whatever, whether it's done or no, waiting for review, being prepared. It really depends on you. And here you have to set the priority to the task. And you just got to think of this normally as a very small board that is going to remind you every day that you have a task to complete, or you can even set the time for the morning. For example, if you have a task to do the afternoon and you don't want to forget it, you set it you a notification to your mobile, a kind of a text message. You have a task to do. For example, you have a webinar at 3 to do with class for that is absolutely very useful for me, even teaching some, let's say, senior teacher academicians. It really helps me keep a track and even tells you about time, about date, and put some messages to people. If you want to help you with it, you can just try here to sign, for example, by going to give the notification with you. So basically just one of the tools I'm using to share with you. Say how it's being used, how to get a trial period over it, so you can just one. Then later on, you can upgrade to premium if you want. You can just reset your credentials to reconnect once more, making sure that your tasks, your files and your notes are being stored there, and it's absolutely confidential, trustworthy thing. Any other things, any other hints to us understand or know what other teachers are using? Anyone else, please? Okay, so it seems that there is no one. As I said, if anyone got a question at this tool, monday.com, I'm very, very happy to share information, to show you how it works, to even, let's say, prepare like a tutorial session or, let's say, a mentoring session on how you get to use it as a teacher, just you could put there and how the notification system works. Yeah, just like you can write it on the slides on or send me a message to Ibtisam so that you can forward the information and I have to be at the disposal of your request. Thanks. Another important thing, which is we as teachers, let's say, I don't want to say all of that, it's one of the challenges, it's one of the failures, one of the reasons why we default to manage our time. We do not set personal goals. We as teachers, we sometimes miss to set goals, to set objectives. And it's kind of, I've been 7 years or maybe 7 years and a half difference, and I really learned very much the essentials to managing my time very well, because I all the time set the goals that are given to me, or I myself set as of the beginning, let's say, setting the expectations of the work I'm going to do. It gives me kind of a destination and a vision towards, and certainly a motivation to finish my tasks and know where I am exactly, or what I want to go by the end of the lesson or by the end of the syllabus I've got assigned to me. It helps me really my priorities and manage them, particularly when it comes to time, when it comes to resources. I got there. So the objectives you got to set to manage your time, they're going to help you decide what's worth spending your time on and what's just a distraction, what are things that are going to be useful for you as a teacher, useful for the lesson, useful for the students, in what are things are going to be useless. So you can use really different ways to set your goals. You can have a personal check. You can have, I don't know, a sport. You can have, let's say, the SMART model to set effective goals. The look is getting no. It really depends on you. It really, let's say, stays up to the teacher to decide what are the goals or what are the ways they're going to use to set up those. It's a long time, long time, just by not having goals, activities. Any additional, let's say, note, any additional information? Okay, it seems that no one has gotten. There is another issue, which is being incapable to prioritize. We're not prioritizing that we would like to do in the class. We are not prioritizing the lessons, the activities, the project when it comes to especially when you're facing kind of flat of seemingly urgent tasks before the exams, before the completion of the syllabus, before some inspections. What's of that? So most of the teachers really they suffer from, let's say, time management problem, because they are unable to prioritize their tasks. Using in order to do high priority and has got a low value filling work, and it really depends on the time and as well as the differences of these bite activities or goals. I'm keen to know how you're using what are the skills you are using to your tasks. Because your personal ones. Let's not talk about the one in the school's policy or in the institution's policy. You as teachers, do you have some personal competencies you are using to prioritize the activities, to prioritize your, let's say, typees on your lessons?
Sorry, this is Hicham, and I hope that all the members can hear me well. Sorry, I wanted just to say, please don't take screenshots, because each time you take a screenshot, the sound is cut and we can't hear Hicham well. And if you have a question, just unmute the mic, ask it, and then mute it again. Don't write on the chat box, please.
Thank you, Hicham. But let me ask you a question. How do you prioritize your tasks and your activities to your syllabus and your students' courses?
Sorry, you mentioned the syllabus. Do you mean if I...
Yeah, anyway, it's a syllabus, or it really depends on you, whether a syllabus, whether a lesson, whether a project, but just the way you were setting the priority to your tasks and your day to day, or weekly to weekly, bi-weekly to bi-weekly activities as a teacher.
Hello, this is Zainab. I want to answer the question.
Okay, Zainab, go ahead. Okay.
Okay, thank you. I want to answer the question. First of all, I start with an overall reading of all the curriculum, and I prefer to make like sequence planning. This is the way, instead of weekly, it's kind of monthly planning, where we have to take into consideration all the aspects that should be included to reach the global aims. Also, I tend to have this reflective journal. The reflective journal is collecting data about the learners in all aspects, their strengths, weaknesses, so that I will find the areas where I have to maximize the practice of something or something like that. And also the reflective journal I tend to use is to collecting data to plan for moderation or remediation, and all the lessons I wanna have within the sequence. Thank you.
Thank you, Zainab. Absolutely. Thank you so much. Hicham, it's up to you now.
Okay, thank you. Well, what I take into consideration is the objectives. So first of all, I have a look on all the objectives I have, which I have to reach by the end of the sequence. And then I plan my lessons, or let's say that make my tasks according, or my lessons according to the objectives I have. So, and also I work on make a link between all the lessons.
Thank you, Sam. Yes, I agree, and both about what you've said. It really depends on the teachers and on the environment they're working on, the tools, and the as well as, let's say, the means they've got to use. I personally prefer to use kind of a service improvement plan in the very beginning of the year, and I'm working on tracking it on a weekly basis. And if not, I work on it bi-weekly and on a monthly basis. It helps me to determine the tasks which are, let's say, which they've got kind of a priority, a low value, filling work with urgency, without urgency, and particularly this is going to help me very so much to kind of managing my time much better during the day particularly when I am into the lessons. So before I enter the lesson, I put kind of a plan or a service improvement plan of my lesson into prioritizing based on my learners' experience, based on my learners' needs, what are the top priority activities to do, what are instructional activities or tasks I have to start with, as you said, for example, reading, for example, a warm-up, ice break, whatever it comes to, and it depends on your lesson. You might want also to go through the bite-sized, let's say, session with your students. It means that by grabbing a part of every activity, if you think that there is kind of a general idea and understood of the topic, that you get to prioritize. I said I'm talking about myself. I got to prioritize by setting my service improvement plan and putting necessary priorities for each task and for each activity and for each node into my sessions to my learners' needs.
Sorry, Hicham.
I go ahead.
Thank you. Hicham, I think, in my opinion, there is a strong relation between time management and the materials used, or the availability of materials used. Like, for example, flashcards, pictures, let's say data show, videos. I think the more the materials are available, the more the time management will be easier.
Absolutely. This is very, very absolute, and it really depends, as you said. I mean, the more you got the materials, the more you got nice resources, effective resources, the more you got to manage your time. There is a strong relation, but it really depends, let's say, on the session, depends on the teacher, depends as well on the syllabus and policy you have got. For example, some countries where they have kind of monitored teaching. I'm going to give an example of countries, but we do have it in some Middle East countries. Monitored teaching, it means the teachers are being supervised by camera, by supervisors, or by whoever there, to check whether they are tackling all the activities mentioned in the syllabus or no. And here it really needs strong time management skills to perform such a task. But I don't deny what is Wasim, it's absolutely relational.
Hello again.
Hi there.
Hello. I don't know whether you hear me or not.
We do hear you. Go ahead.
I just wanted to add something to what you have just said. For me, I build trust with my learners by setting an ice break, or just to get them to know some simple and easy activities that suit their interests and needs. I also talk about, for example, about something they
I guess.
Hello? Can you hear me?
How do you hear you now? Go ahead.
Also, at the end of each lesson, I give my students a feedback to explain what they have learned, and then receiving that feedback that can help me move for the next lesson plan. That's it. Thank you.
This is very good. Thank you, Zin. Absolutely. Feedback is an important aspect of, let's say, relational development with the students in order to kind of study case to help you manage better your time in the very next sessions, in the very next courses you go into for similar learners. Just
Sorry,
stay on the
Isma,
track of time.
sorry, this is Isma, not Zainab. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Isman, I'm absolutely sorry. Yes, thank you. Okay, another thing why we fail to manage our time is failing to manage our distractions. This is a point. I don't want to go into details very much. It's very clear that we as teachers we can lose as much as per day into dealing with distractions and really, let's say, whether distractions they come from a discussion with your colleagues, from emails, from being on the phone, some colleagues managing crisis, having, let's say, problems with students. It's just kind of an achievement flow which is satisfying and seemingly effortless to our work, which is a very, very distractive aspect to manage our time. I don't know how it works with you, but we know all the distractions when it comes to teaching. Distractions, unfortunately, are very hard to manage. They can be of any aspect, they can be of any source, they can come out of absolutely nothing, whether a student who is sick, whether a very sad inspection, whether you've got a problem with your electricity in class, your smart board doesn't work, I don't know, kind of the Wi-Fi doesn't work, the recording is prepared for doesn't work. It's as I say, it's a very hard and manageable, let's say, aspect of failures to manage time in classroom. Then procrastination means procrastination actually it occurs when you just get to put off the task you should be focusing right now, and you just feel guilty that you have not started yet, that you have not been able to tackle your lessons or the things that you've planned before. So this is actually the meaning of being procrastinating. And actually, you should start most of the times by very, very strict activities or very strict, let's say, topics. For instance, useful strategies to tell your learners that you are only going to start on a project for 10 minutes, let's say, and feel to have kind of a complete task from the start to the finish. So as I said, procrastination is something that doesn't happen very much. If you have, it really just kind of distracts the teacher's time, distracts the teacher's mood, and it just kind of drives the teacher away, put himself. You can use, agreements with your students on how you would like to tackle your lessons. It really depends on the relational aspect you've got with your learners and how you are setting your class stars and icebreakers since the very beginning. Well, any additional notes about procrastination? Okay, there's no question or no additional thing to add. Let me go through these point 6 and point 7 all together at the same time. Taking on too much and thriving busy. Usually, let's say, some of the people, they get out of being busy and narrowly they need the deadlines and the endless, piles of papers, lots of homework pieces to correct. Exam paper, they will frantic race to meetings with your department, with your school staff. There is kind of an addiction to business that really means that you are effective, but unfortunately, that is not. So what the tips here is to really learn to say no So this is actually for people, particularly for teachers, our colleagues, who are not able sometimes to get out of the thriving mood because of some policies, because of some instructional problems, because of the syllabus, because of the strategy that is being used in school to fulfill some projects, to do some preparatives for a visit or for a very official event to happen in that classroom, into that school. So later on, I don't want to talk about what we need to do in order to avoid kind of from busy and let's say getting over these problems. The upcoming slides are going to show us how we could deal with these failures, with these challenges, and what are the tips which are very standard being used. I'm absolutely sure they're going to be helpful to you. I mean, so any questions about this slide before we pass to the second one, please?
Hello there. Hello, everybody. Do you hear me?
Hi there.
Yes. I don't know if what I'm going to say is related to the slide you have just explained or not, but I think that good time management in the classroom starts at home by mapping out the objectives of the lesson very well and setting the appropriate tasks in terms of time devoted and the length of tasks. Sometimes we plan more tasks and hugely than we deliver in the classroom. So when we come to the class and have 1 hour of time to deliver our lesson, then we fail to manage our time and we fell short time.
I agree. I can't agree more. Thank you. Anyone else, please? Okay, seems that no one has got something to add for this slide. Then let's go to see some tips on how to manage your time in the classroom. Just take 30 seconds or 1 minute to read of the slide. Then we can start, let's say, partly on it, talking about every single point. Okay, guys. Yes, tips to more time in the classroom. I've really prepared kind of a sum up of these pieces of tips we are using to kind of manage our times, particularly in the classroom. Starting from the first one, setting objectives. I guess some of you in the very beginning of the session talked about defining objectives, defining goals for each class and for each lesson, and try to remain focused on them. I'm talking about the teacher's goals, not the learner's goals here. So it's extremely important for us to set plans, to set goals and objectives to our lessons, to our courses before we tackle them, and we track ourselves whether we're going to be able or up to make sure that we are going to allow the class to digress too far or for too long, might sacrifice some, let's say, critical discussions on activities that you got to make those objectives fulfilled. You get to make those goals achieved by the end of the session. So this is one of the tips really, which helps you save very, very much time in your session, while, let's say, delivering a course, delivering a tutorial session, delivering a normal, let's say, a lesson, grammar, listening, whatever it is, and really for you very, very much time. Just guys, if you have any questions or if you've got any point about any of the elements here, just as you said, unmute yourself and say your name, and you can stop me so that we can discuss or give more detail. Then second point, which is adapting to. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you. This is Hicham. Well, talking about the objectives, of course, going to class without objectives, we will have no results. Even a talk has to have an objective. Talking without objectives, it means it is just a blah blah or just a nonsense.
Absolutely. I used to have a problem into setting objectives and goals to my lessons, particularly when I new teacher, let's say just after my graduation. But time by time, I got to learn how to set nice expectations, deliverable expectations, achievable objectives to my syllabus, and it really helped me. The second here tip we could use, I'm going side flexibility, which means that being able to reshape your lesson plan on the fly and make sure that you respond to the demands of different groups. So the fancy thing in the world now, particularly. Hello?
Hello?
Okay, it seems to be working better.
Hello?
Who's there? Go ahead.
Yeah, that's Lila. That's Lila. So I wanted to talk about something. Since you are talking about setting objectives, etc. Yeah, I totally agree with this, because without objectives, we can't reach anything. But there is also something very important. We spoke about ranking tasks, or sometimes skipping tasks if you judge that these tasks are not important. So, but what if we reduce the number of tasks sometimes? So, because time management is, as I told you at the beginning, is not that easy, and it depends also from a class to another. Sometimes we try to create routines in class so that our lessons go well, and I mean, being flexible is very important too. This is what you have mentioned now. A flexible teacher, I think, is a teacher that can reach the objectives very quickly and effectively, because the attention span of students, or let's see, a lesson delivered in a class may be delivered in a different way. It could be delivered in a different way in another class. So it's very important to be flexible, to sometimes reduce tasks according to the needs, or to the learning speed, if I can say this, in each class, and also skip activities that you judge that are not very efficient for delivering your lesson. Sorry for interrupting. Thank you.
Thank you. But you helped me explaining the point here, the tip flexibility. I would like us to add one thing. We are teaching, what we are trying to reshape our lessons, skipping activities, trying to be flexible as much as we can. We do not judge, but we assume if you assume it means you are going to do it, and you are going to be responsible for its results or for its outcomes. But if you judge, you'll just go tackle it theoretically. So that's what I wanted to just to add to the attendees to explain it more. Thank you, Lila. Absolutely, you helped me explain this point better than I was going to do. Then we've got adapting to the outtrans, someone who is kind of comfortable to early and get adapted to the compromise and accomplish everything ideally the way you would like to accomplish it. So it means being adapted to challenges, being adapted to problems, particularly technical problems, administrative problems, material-wise, when I'm talking about resources and things we, as a community of Algerian teachers, miss in our country very, very much. So being able to adapt to the outtrans, to these challenges, is going to save you time. Maybe this point as we all passed over it when we started our new teaching experience. So as I said, it's really, it depends on the teacher, on the ability to adapt and the ability to be comfortable very early with the compromises, with the problems, or with trying to find solutions to whatever situation, to whatever obstacle we got to be faced with. I guess that the point itself and the description explains let's say, the meaning of adapting the outcomes. And as I said in the very beginning, that these tips, they are complementary. So you can use all of them, you can use one, and it depends on what challenges you are having in managing your time. Then another point, which is assessing and revision. This is actually a complementary one to the flexibility when it comes to shaping the lesson plan, shaping the activities. Send as a very flexible teacher to do additions and, let's say, adjustments the way you want. Reviewing the given material and revise assignment requirements means that you sometimes activities in your course book, the interest, you find out the materials that are use their kind of screens, or let's say pictures, texts, whatever, like drawings, anything in that book, anything on the material you've got to use as a teacher. They are not against, or they do not respond kind of to the requirements of the assignments you would like to present to the students. So here, as a teacher, we need to learn to assess. Firstly, the material we actually use our students. They won't revise these materials against the requirements we are setting up, or which are being automatically set up by the syllabus or your school or by the institution itself. And this happens most of the times in terms of, I give you an example of newly installed technology means, for example, a smart board, which has newly in the class, which has never had kind of a technology, let's say a relation with the educational technology. And the way we use, or the requirements we as teachers going to set up into using this model needs to be compatible with students with the skills and the competency of understanding and being, let's say, able to perceive or to conceive the learning portfolio to provide them. Any questions or any additional point about assessing and revision? Another thing, let's say, getting out of the way, recognizing, I don't remember the name of the lady who said kind of just data point similar to recognizing when a teacher should step and let the students take over when the students are very responsive and they're in a very dynamic classroom, a very dynamic environment. They just would like to participate, and we as teachers, we think that we are going to use time, or we are going to lose kind of structure of the class. Here the teacher is up to play the role of taking the responsibility to decide, depending on the learner's needs, depending on the learning those tests, whether they opt to carry on that way of participation of and the teacher stepping aside and letting the students taking over the lesson, or carrying on with your schedule tasks and so on. So here you have to be kind of some people management skills to understand when you need to step aside and let the students take over that, let's say, every 10 minutes, 15 minutes to dynamitize the lesson, to make it kind of simulated in a very type of way. Then planning, this goes actually with the 3 flexibility, assessing and revision. Task time in course objectives. Here means course objective. You as a teacher, you've got, let's say, the fully responsibility to adapt, to adjust your lesson plans and setting your course objectives upon, or let's say, against the students' requirements, into the learning styles, into the learning abilities, and so on. You are responsible for that. You've got the capacity, you've got the ability, you've got the organization or not. You are able to do that just using some kind of some concepts of making the best outcome of your planned lesson, of your planned activities to your students. I don't know if you guys in Algeria, I'm sorry, I've been teaching in Algeria, but only at university. If you're able to change your lesson plans, if you're able to make adjustments and change the course objectives the way you want or no, or the way in response to the students' requirements or no. Là, ابتسام names, but anyone please to let know whether you've got kind of that the approval to change your lesson plans or no.
This is Zinab. Yes, we have the this. We are free to change. This is what we call. We have like a table by the end of any lesson plan. What hindered and what doesn't work. And according to this reflections, we can adjust our lesson plan within the scope of the program. We don't go beyond. Thank you.
Thank you for confirmation. Thank you. Any questions? I've been running over with in this slide. Okay. One question. I mean, start with this, continuing with this. Let's say regarding smart. The same as the in the first thing was about, but this time we're talking about for against the requirements of our students before the lesson, not when the lesson begins. And again, lesson by the end of the session to learn how to on how to I don't know, write a word when it comes to written expression effectively. So are very, very important. They fall into the kind of the scope of students. Someone is not on okay, it was, but yes, another tip which is organized. We're under the same domain, and we understand our their lessons, their exam paper got correct, they got correct. So if you organize if you put kind of organizational skill to your time, to your desk, to your papers, to your clutter, generally talking, you are going to save some time for your 2 minutes. Look of your students for an ideal example from out of the book. And this is the problem that happens in the very beginning. You experienced why you're not on the person, depends on the personality of that teacher, how organized they are. But I'm sure that doesn't happen very, very often. But this is a point I wanted to mention, I wanted to include into this. For those very busy teachers who have got kind of 10 classes, classes to teach the day within a very, very busy workload volumes. So yes, this is for them. We need to organize and organize. By organizing our papers, our clutters, our files, our desk and lessons, books, whatever we've got, they should be put in a very organized way. And this is a reflection of the person's personality, a normal life, or let's say in the day-to-day daily socialization. Okay, any questions here for the first 2 tips, please?
Sorry,
Hello. Yeah, it's Zinab.
Yeah.
Hi, Zinab.
Yeah, sorry,
Okay.
sorry, but we can't hear you well. We can't hear you well. Maybe the problem is, yeah, there's a bad connection. Sorry, I didn't hear anything.
Okay, I'm sorry. I did not know that. I know what.
Yeah.
Do you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you now. It's okay.
Okay. Lovely. I was talking about organizing and not organizing. Means that people, the teachers generally, who are not organizing their desks, who are not organizing their clutters, their files, their piles of files they've got for exam corrections paper, in their lesson books, their course books. It's all about trying to put yourself or trying to set yourself a new skill organizations, which is going to make you gain time and not lose time in your lessons. For example, if you've got a varsity desk, you are not able to find kind of a resource, you're not able to find a picture, you are not able to find an example from a book, from one books you've got set on your desk. So this is an additional, and this actually does the personal overview, the reality of that teacher, but this is a skill to be acquired, and this is a skill to be to be working with, and it saves you less time. Yes, we understand 5 minutes, it's not that big deal, but it is still something that saves for us time. If we organize, we are going to lose 10 minutes in every session. By the week, you would find yourself having lost 4 or 5 hours. questions? And I guess you heard me well, right? Can you confirm, please?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And another
Hello?
point.
Hello? May I
Hello.
add something?
Oh, yes, please.
Instead of using technologies, ICTs as data show, videos, picture, etc., there are other more strategies or techniques we can use in our classrooms. And such techniques or strategies can help our learners to, for example, to improve their behaviors better. Me as a teacher, when I start my lesson, I always move around my students. I like, for example, I say to them, or I say to one of my students, for example, I like your hairstyle, or what a beautiful pair of shoes you are wearing. Today you seem so active. How smart of you to have your desk neat and clean. So here I love the way, so here you are walking and talking to a few students. You are checking on them and appreciating them. For example, if you say, I love the way your desk is clean, be sure the rest of the students will try to clean their desks too, or their tables as well. So here we need to approach our students to join us while keeping our behavior steady and pleasant. We have to insult some values that they will need them later on in their or during their real life situations. So here I always lose just 10 minutes or 15 minutes or more to get my students motivated and engaged during the lesson. Sorry. Thank you. Sorry.
Sorry, I just wanted to add a point. Just thank you, Ismahan, to mention. Thank you, Hicham. Thank you, Ismahan, to mention the point of values. As we are demonstrating values, we have some on the program, but others, for example, like being organized, is one of the values too. If we are not organized, we are going to transmit a bad message to our learners.
Thank you for
sorry for interrupting. You know, Ibtisam, that values are not taught, but they are demonstrated. So we have to do
Absolutely.
that.
That's what I said.
Yes. Okay. So we have to deal with such values as teachers. Thank you.
Thank you for both of you. Really, I appreciate your intervention. I appreciate having mentioned this important this is one of the values we teacher appreciating ourselves, appreciating our work, particularly studying our vision, studying our mission, trying to standardize our thoughts, trying to standardize our practices together.
Thank you. The pleasure is mine.
Anyway, thank you for what you've mentioned. Absolutely. Another thing, which is preparing or making resources. It may sound a little bit hard. It may sound a little bit compatible to the mood maybe we are working on. It's a very good idea for me as a teacher to prepare my resources, to prepare my files, whether online, whether on a paper, whether on a book, wherever it could be. Very beginning of my syllabus, in the very beginning year, then I just get myself to make some very little adjustments into them to do them right. It's certainly going to cost me some time, some extra time, but I'm going to be able to reuse those resources, to reuse those files, those tables I've created in the very beginning effectively by just doing some very little adjustments. So it's all about how creative a teacher could be in order to kind of act quickly, act effectively, are already in the production, in the execution of your syllabus module. And I'm absolutely sure I've seen on Facebook very lots of teachers who are preparing lots of things, kind of very standard procedures, very standard booklets and things like this, kind of plans and kind of some allocated lessons to the set. And they're sharing them kind of in a Word file, in a PDF file. And the other teachers, they can take them, they can work on them, they can adapt to whatever they want to as a contact into that. This is one of the things, is being creative, preparing or make your own resources is going to give you a better idea into executing, into explaining, into sending the right message, and giving kind of a very lovely learning opportunities to your students. And they are related with the lesson.
Well, Hicham, I totally agree with you. You know what John Dewey says? Give the pupil something to do, not something to learn. And the doing here is of such a nature as to demand thinking and learning naturally. It means if you tell your students, they sure will forget. If you teach them, they may remember, but if you involve them using such resources, etc., they will learn. It means we pupils learn through doing, not by just listening to. Thank you.
Absolutely. I don't know if there exists another word rather than thank. Anyway, thank you so much for having added the point. What I wanted to say is making resources and moving between lessons, kind of the traditional time, moving between lessons or moving between activities is very much related. And so you try to use kind of a transitional time between a lesson, another lesson, between an activity and another activity, effectively and in a very timely manner, in a very organized way. If you are organized, you organize. And if you don't organize, you make your own resources because you know your own materials, you know that the extra time you've spent before, so you just got to kind of 10 minutes to do the whole transition, editing or adjusting your resource or your materials, and at the same time executing a whole transition from one class from one lesson to another. So if you as a teacher, you got to be able to make your own resources, your own materials. There is absolutely going to be very helpful to you. And by the way, to mention in this webinar, if you as a teacher need to create your own resources and you have some difficulties, you need some, I don't know, some applications, or you need some time, you need help, absolutely, I'm going to be at your disposal. Just write to me on Facebook or just contact in one of Wasim or Ibtisam, and I will do my best to help you resource or give you some of my resources I could find, because I'm teaching, let's say, kind of middle, high school and secondary school students, but I still got some of my archive. I'm going to be extremely happy if any one of you contacts me for help to create own resources and own materials. And so was out of it, but anyway. Any questions about making risk from moving between lessons and activities?
I would just like to add something, that if our work is organized, that will be a link between the tasks, for example, and our learners won't get confused.
I confirm.
Yeah, so, and if they are not organized, it will be a total mess. And the students notice this, actually.
Thank you, Lila.
You're
so
welcome.
they will do the same mess.
That's it.
Okay, and another thing, this is, I don't know if it really applies in our country or no, but if you learn to say no, for example, I used to work in an organization. Actually, I was teaching in Georgia for about a month and a half, and we used to have kind of a very strict policy in terms of executing and reporting our delivery of the lessons. I was teaching in my school, and I was obliged to do a reporting after every lesson. It means that I'm going to teach for 4 minutes. Then after 45 minutes, I have to prepare kind of a report of that session. I need to write it down. I need to print it, and I need to go to the workforce department, which we had kind of a special department for us. We need to submit that report, and we need to wait for results, kind of an analysis. I don't want to say result. So this was kind of a hard policy for me to I did not manage to get my own break. I did not manage to do a transition. I did not manage to relax a little bit. I did not manage to meet my students kind of before and after the lesson for quick talks and kind of familiarization. So I learned that time that I am able to say no as a teacher. I am able to refuse any policy or any kind of any procedure or any sign that is going to be put all over my work, which will impact to my activities, going to kind of lower my results. So we as teachers, we are able to say no. We are able to refuse things, particularly when it comes to your course books you are using. You are able to refuse some of the lessons which are absolutely not against the requirements or the expectations of the students, and at the same time they do not respond at any level to the students' needs. So I just wanted to mention this, and I put kind of a special tone for us that we are able to change, we're able to do adjustments and to refuse any of the lessons, because we are the first contact to our students. We are the first thing they see, and we are the first door they enter through. Something about kind of considering priorities and how a task can contribute to your goals or not. Anyone? Okay. It seems that there is no additional thing to add. Yes, then the last year is you as teachers, you need to allocate time for yours. You need to relax. You need to exercise, to work out, to go to the gym, to sleep early, to near on your body. You need to speak to your colleagues. You need to have some fun. So things we as kids need to take care of is primarily ourselves. We need really to allocate the relaxed time to be able to do our job effectively, to use the time that is being afforded to us in a very right way. This is not going to be kind of a very detailed one, but as you said, myself as a teacher, this side of teaching, as I said, let's say the four levels of, except the last one of university and professional students, I absolutely think of myself, relax, of my own comfort, of my own soul and body before I think to tire myself do my. I am the and I am the person who is going to execute and do that job. Was a quick piece of advice from myself. I don't doubt that you are doing that at this very moment, particularly in this confinement period. But yes, a reminder is a plus. Any additional tips you could one of you teach us today on how to save or how to use our time in our classrooms, doing our jobs effectively, please?
This is Zainab again. With time, according to time management, which is more important, is not only about overcoming the fear of not finishing or wasting time. It's about understanding the far-reaching benefits of using our time. And for doing so, we have to have clear objectives and clear ways of assessments. And we have a variety of activities, not to activities to maximize the TTT, the student talking time, not the TTT time, the teacher talking time. And this is what we fall in, and this is one of the most important things that the teachers fall in, is with talking too much and minimize the chance or the opportunity for the learners to produce. And we have this lack of trust in our learners. We don't make them taking risks. Thank you.
Thank you, Zainab. I appreciate what you've added, and this is the reason I've just turned out to the smart model slide. Smart model is actually something known worldwide, and I don't doubt that really lots of teachers, they use it. They try kind of to consider lots of things that they have to do in a very timely manner. They would like to achieve. They need to think in a short-term way as well as long-term objectives. And using a smart model, being specific, being measurable, being achievable, being realistic and time-bound is extremely important, since this is going to frame your goals. You're going to have your willingness to adjust, and your students up to a very better attainment of results, up to a better attainment of knowledge that is going to get out of your skills, of your time, and your efforts particularly. Yeah, and
yeah, may I add something, please?
Please go ahead. We don't hear you. Hello? Hello?
Is it okay? Can you hear me now?
Okay, now we do.
Okay, thank you so much. So I was just speaking about the different points we mentioned. So like being prepared, setting objectives and so on in order to gain time. But there is also something very important, which is to communicate our goals to our students before starting our lessons. I think this is something that really helps, because when the students know about what the teacher is going to do, it's kind of gaining time at the beginning, because they know what will the lesson be about. So this is very important for me, I think. And just notice when we communicate the goals and when we don't. So when we communicate the goals at the beginning of the lesson, we finish our lesson I won't say very quickly, but time management goes really well. But if we don't, we find some obstacles during presenting the lesson. Thank you so much.
Hello again. Hello, do you hear me?
Yes, we do hear you. Go ahead.
Just want to add something to what Saliha has just said. We need motivation. As I said before, motivation comes first. Okay, and this is has to do with our personality and attitude. If you are not nice with your students and you don't appreciate them, then they will not care about you or even what you teach. So we have to be nice and respectful. Why not? We have to appreciate them with words or nice words. We have to reward them. For example,